me know when the screen is visible.
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, I will start the timer now. Hello everyone, myself Swapnil Vegaraju and I'm a Salesforce Technical Architect. Today I'll be presenting the solution design for global adventure tours. I'll start off with the company overview. GAT specialize in booking and organizing adventure tours. They do it across the world, along with partnership with boutique operators and guides. They currently operate in Australasia, Asia, Europe, Africa, North and Latin America. The objectives they would like to get out of this project is to replace their end-of-life tour management system, build an end-to-end solution process on Salesforce, and cater for a single platform for their operators and tour guides. The assumptions I have taken for this solution is that the payment force system has a UI which will provide a redirect-based integration for both payment method maintenance as well as to perform payments. And I'll explain a little bit more during my business requirements walkthrough. Tour operators the ones who are ready to integrate with GAT will agree on a common key so that the integration can work, common key on the customer. I have also assumed 1,000 GAT staff that will be using the system. I've also assumed 5% yearly growth in the data to assist with my data calculation, and I have assumed a data warehouse system on the AWS stack in the solution landscape. The strategies I considered for this solution is a single org hosted in the US region. The reason for single org is it is a consolidation business process where GAT would like to implement similar business process across different regions. There are no data residency requirements as well and no risk to governor limits that I can see. Advantage of single org for this customer would be single source of truth, 360-degree view of customer, and the collaboration between the staff along with simple integrations. Other strategies I have considered for mobile, I'll be providing SF1 mobile app for the internal staff, mobile publisher for adventurers, because there are no requirements for any high performance UI, pixel perfect requirements, or any offline requirements. Identity will be implemented using SAML 2.0 SSS using Okta for internal staff and social sign-on for the customers. For the document management system, I'll be using X-Files Pro. I'll explain how I arrived at that conclusion. It is a managed package which will connect with the S3 storage, which will be implemented on the AWS EDW I have assumed in the solution. Reporting will be built on Salesforce reports and dashboards, plus some of the trend reporting use cases will be built on CRM analytics. Archiving strategy would be to archive the data into AWS Redshift and any files in the S3 storage. I'll also be implementing multi-language, where the English US will be the default language. And I'll be using features such as translation workbench, community translations, and custom labels to send the outbound communications to the customers in their language using Visualforce templates. Multi-currency will also be implemented with USD as corporate currency, and additional currency will be maintained in the managed currency configuration. Following licenses will be provided to the actors. The tour operator coordinators will be given Sales Cloud license because they'll be working around leads, and I've also given them the product management function. Adventure specialist will be using service because there is a requirement for omni-channel. Service coordinators will be using service as well because they'll be working with SLAs and milestones. Regional managers will get sales service as well as CRM analytics for reporting. Tour operators will be given customer community because there is no requirement for advanced sharing. They just need portal access. Tour operator manager will be given CCP because there is a requirement for advanced sharing as well as reporting. Tour guides will be given CCP as well because of advanced sharing. And the adventurer, who are the customers, around 300,000 of them, they'll be given portal access. They'll be given CC just for portal access. Moving to the role hierarchy, it's pretty flat. So the topmost role in any region would be the reporting manager, into which there'll be 3 roles reporting: the AS, TOC, and SCM. SCM will be the support side of business process, and the service coordinator will be reporting into SCM. The 2 external personas which will require roles will be reporting into the TOC because the respective accounts will be owned by them. And finally, AS will be reporting directly into regional manager. This role hierarchy will be replicated across to multiple regions as required. And role hierarchy will help us in giving the record level security access to the manager, same as the subordinates. Moving on to the system landscape, all these systems that are going out or retired will be marked in red. The new ones will be in blue, and the ones that are retained are in black with 2 ribbons. The core business process will be built on Salesforce. As mentioned before, I'll be using core functions such as omnichannel, chat, core service, and CRM analytics. The core functionality will be augmented by following app exchange packages, distribution engine for round-robin lead assignment, Conga for document generation, DocuSign for digital signature, digital lookup roll-up summary for automatically calculating roll-up amounts based on lookup child records, and X Files Pro for the file management. I'll be providing two Experience Cloud instances, one for adventurers and one for tour guides. I mentioned one for tour operators. Apologies. I mentioned tour guides here, but I'm now thinking they should be as part of the adventurer because there is a use case of them collaborating with the tour guides as well. There is a enterprise service bus as well, which will function as the common platform to write any integration transformation logic. It will also assist us in writing the protocol conversion, retry error handling, and any load balancing that is required. It will connect into Salesforce using the jot token flow, and the connection will be protected using MTLS. There is also an ETL, which will connect in the similar fashion into Salesforce, which is for bulk data integration. So anywhere where the number of records to integrate is above 2,000, ETL along with bulk 2.0 is a better protocol, and also it has separate limits to the normal API limits that we get. Moving on to the further other systems, the Google address lookup will be used to convert the addresses for the tours into geocoordinates. The tour operating systems will be implemented new where required or brought on where it's already functional. The payment force will continue to function with payments activities moving ahead. Service Pro system has been retained as well, and because it only supports HTTP, I'm proposing a reverse proxy which will do the protocol conversion between HTTPS and HTTP. The two outgoing systems, the regional Salesforce and TMS, will be the data will be migrated out from them and imported into Salesforce. The reason why I am proposing to retire Salesforce regional SF is this particular use case does not require multiple orgs because they would like all the users to be in the same system with a single view of customer data. It is easier to implement in using a single log. Finally, for the identity solution, Okta will be used where the Okta agent will be installed in the DMZ. It will integrate with the Active Directory for internal staff and LDAP for the customer coordinate, the tour operators, and it will do a SAML 2.0 SSO into Salesforce. There'll be two mobile solutions, one for customers who will be using Mobile Publisher and SF1. Both will be connecting into Salesforce using the user agent authentication flow. Moving on to the data model, I'll be using accounts to represent the tour operator and person accounts to represent the adventurers, and the tour operators' direct contacts will be represented using the direct business contacts. The business process will start with leads, so the prospects and the prospect tour guide as well as adventurers will be first represented as a lead, and once the required qualification happens, they'll be converted into the account and contact using the lead conversion process that I'll explain in the business process. And as part of setting up of the tour, the application will first come into the tour object with a particular status. The schedules that the tour operator would like to publish will be maintained in the tour schedule object, and the registration between the tour and the person account adventurer will be represented in the tour registration object. Once the tour is in the negotiation phase, I will also be creating an opportunity so that the negotiation and quoting process can happen. The opportunity product will be used to represent any fees that GAT would like to charge for each of these tours that they are onboarding. And those fees will be set up as products along with price books that apply to different regions. And price book entries will be created based on the different countries in the regions that we want to surface this solution. When the person account or the adventurer is ready to book a tour, we will be storing that in an order and an order product. And any fees related to the tour will also be maintained in the product and the price book entries created so that the order product will be reflecting those amounts, and the total roll-up will be on the order for us to integrate into the payment system. Finally, moving further right, the case object will be used for the support requests that the adventurers might book in, along with the supporting objects such as entitlement milestones, case milestones, and entitlement process to drive the SLA and the other automations. I'll now move on to the business requirements. I'll start off with the tour operator management requirements. So here at the moment, the way the onboarding happens is quite manual. They download a PDF, and this process needs to be streamlined and enhanced. So here I'm proposing to build a registration forms using Lightning Web Component. The reason for Lightning Web Component is it's a customer-facing UI. You would like the UX to be as good as possible, and LWC support that. Submit of those forms will be resulting into a lead record created for that tour operator. TOC needs to be assigned to the request based on their region and on round-robin basis. Lead assignment rules will be first brought in so that the leads are first assigned into a region-based queue that I'll be configuring. And I'm using external app distribution engine, which comes with a round-robin configuration to assign the lead in a sequential manner. GAT would like to capture support documentation, including certificate references against the registration, and they're anticipating 10 MB of these files. So the LWC screens that I'll be building will have the attachment support in it, and the files will be attached to the lead using the X-Files Pro connection object. TOC will be able to collaborate with the other users on the lead. So here chatter will be enabled on the lead object so that the collaboration can happen. We will be setting up sharing rules as I'll explain in the sharing requirements. But if they want to share with some other TOC, they will need to do manual sharing first so that they get the recorder access, and then they would be able to collaborate. TOC today verifies these documents using micro-based spreadsheet, and based on the rules defined in the spreadsheet, they create a score. And depending on the score, they try different functionalities. So here the score calculation logic will be implemented using the screen flow. And any configuration such as thresholds, etc., will be set up in custom metadata to support that calculation logic. And at the end of that screen flow, our score will be calculated and updated on a custom field on the lead. Using that, we will be able to then drive further automations, such as if the score is greater than 50, we will assign that particular lead to a different queue where all the ASS would be working, and this queue will also be a per region queue. Notification will be used using the queue email standard functionality. And on this one, because they wanted assignment based on the capacity, I'll be setting up lead omni-channel routing and attaching that routing configuration to the queue. AS sends an email to the tour operator requesting a visit, and this email should include name of the AS and the proposed date of the visit, etc. So that functionality will be built using the event standard object. So here the AS would come into the lead, create a new event, select the contact they would like to meet, and choose a date and time, and would send an email out of the lead page layout as well using the email functionality available on the publisher. AS can choose to approve or cancel the registration, and they can do that from their mobile device. So here AS will update any details that are required on the lead via their SF1 mobile app, and they will be updating the lead standard status field to notify the outcome of that visit. If the score is less than 50 and has completed follow-up by AS, then they would like to push it to the RM for approval. So here the AS assign the lead back to the TOC. So the way this will happen is we will capture the original TOC in a custom lookup field to user on the lead object, and once they set up the lead as completed follow-up, using the record trigger flow, we'll assign that lead back to the original TOC, and we will also trigger an approval process, which will send it to the RM, who will be set up as the reporting manager for every user record in that region. Using the qualification criteria in the approval process, we'll then be finding the regional manager for the user and assigning it for approval that way. TOC then onboards the tour operator. The tour operator will be automatically copied. All the information that is captured on the lead will be copied across to the account and contact. So here the TOC will be converting the lead using the standard convert button. We'll be setting up the lead field mapping so that the fields that the information we are capturing in the custom fields on lead gets copied across to account or contact based on our choosing. System should be creating a letter in local language, which will provide the information about the TOC that they just got assigned to. So here the RT flow will be built on the account. So once the account is created, we'll be using the Conga, apologies, not batch, the trigger function, which will allow us to do a headless document generation. And then we will be sending that email in a pre-formatted template using the Visualforce template and sending it to the primary contact that will be assigned to the account. The tour operator and its contacts are set up as a creditor in the payment force system. So once the account is in onboarded status, we will be triggering an integration down to the payment force, and the way we will do that is via ESB and doing it in a request and reply format. The expectation here is once the payment force successfully sets up this user, they will be returning us with an identifier. We'll be storing that in the external ID field. Moving along to the tour proposal and scheduling requirements. So here the request, once a tour operator requests a proposed tour request, they specify the tour dates into the new application, and that will need to go into an approval process as well. So here the tour application will be stored in this tour custom object, and any dates that they are proposing will also be stored in the related tour schedule object, which is related in a master detail fashion. And to assist with the negotiation process, using a record trigger flow on the tour, we will be creating an opportunity as well. No lines to start with. These lines will be populated by the TOC during the negotiation process. The tour operator can specify maximum capacity and 12-month schedule of the dates. So here the proposed dates will be captured in the child object as mentioned before, and the capacity will also be maintained in a custom field on the same object. Any AS in the region can review the proposed tour and schedules, and a user-friendly method is required to assign the tour guide to the tour. So here the AS will assign uh, the tour guide to the application itself, which is represented by the tour object. In order to make the UI a bit easier, I'm proposing a Lightning Web Component here placed on the tour object itself. The object will be, the Lightning component will be built with smarts, which will look at all the available TGs. The way it will do that is look at all the tours that the tour guides are already assigned to, and also look at the different dates in the tour schedule. If the tour operator is already busy in a particular date range, then those will not be shown up in the LWC, assisting with the assignment of tour guides to the tour. A pre-formatted PDF that displays the tour and schedule information needs to be created as well. So here, once again, we'll use the Conga trigger functionality to generate that PDF and attach it to the tour record itself. Once the AS has completed their review, creditor's account is debited in payment force. So here, the assumption is once they work on the opportunity, it might need some collaboration between themselves and the tour operators. They will add one or more lines as necessary, depending on the fees they would like to charge. Once they're already on, they would set the opportunity into closed won status, which will result in an integration via ESB again and sending it to the payment force so that the charging can happen via an integration. The published tour and the schedule data is automatically created and made available for sale. So here we'll be setting the tour status into a published status, and I will explain how we will be sharing that data for it to be available to everyone. An email notification is sent to the tour operator with both the tour details and the schedule. So here we'll be configuring Apex patch that will run daily, a few times in a day. Look for all the tours that are becoming published and that are published, and it will generate an email in a pre-formatted Visual Force template that we would have created for the tour operator. Tour operator can mark the tour to auto-renew for each year, and a new set of tour dates, etc., should be automatically created. So there will be a little bit of custom work here as well. So the intent of making the tour as auto-renewed will be captured on the tour at the time of application. So here, again, similar to the previous requirement, we will be setting up an Apex patch that will look for tour that is coming to the end of year, and it will create the brand new set of records, such as the new tour, new tour schedule, by automatically calculating the dates from date and end date based on the previous year, and also a related opportunity record if they would like to renegotiate the deal with the tour operator. Moving further down to the adventurer request requirement, the potential adventurer should be able to view and search for published tours, and user can filter by the type, adventure, risk level, location, etc. So the potential adventurer, I'm taking that they are not accounts yet, so they should be given this functionality in a guest mode. So here the published tours will be shared using guest sharing rules, using a criteria, looking at the tour.status. And we'll be building LWC in an unauthenticated experience cloud page so that they can see these tours, provide them date, filter criteria, etc., which they can then further filter those records. Search should display a user-friendly global map of the tours that are upcoming. So here the tour address will be captured on the tour record at the time of application coming in. And during the tour getting saved into the system, we'll be triggering an integration with Google address lookup function, which will return us the geo coordinates for that address. We'll be storing that in a custom set of custom geolocation fields in here. Using that data and the lightning map component with the markers, we will be able to plot this in UI on the unauthenticated page. This will go along with the search page so that they can see the tours in a map UI as well. The adventurer can request that the system suggest tours to them based on the types and number of tours that they have booked in the past 5 years. The adventurer registration will be done using paid CC license. Okay, so here the bookings for the adventurer is captured on the order object. So we can set up a Einstein recommendation builder on the order data, and we can set up the criteria. Based on that, the recommendations can be shown to the user based on their past history. At this point, though, the adventurer would have been converted into the account. That business process is not mentioned, but by the time they are actually booking the tour, we would get them registered via a Lightning Web component and a registration handler. Make a booking for the particular tour date. The system should accept payment either using the new account information or the account information stored on the payment force. So because of PCI requirements, the payment information is not being stored in Salesforce. We would maintain that in payment force. The payment integration, however, will be done via a redirect-based integration. So here we'll be providing a button on the order page. Once they are happy with the order, they'll click on that button. Clicking of that button will create integration via ESB to payment force, where payment force will do validation such as if the merchant ID is correct, if the user is already there or not, and they will payment force will provide us with a unique URL which can be used only once in their return response. Once the response is received, we will do a browser redirect to that URL with all the fields such as the amount that is payable, etc., already pre-populated, and the credit card information if the user has already entered or available for their choosing, or letting them enter the new payment information. I have taken, as mentioned before, this assumption that payment force can surface this functionality, and once the user puts in their information, hits on the submit, payment force system will do a ESB-based integration back for us to update the order record as paid, and it will be redirecting to the page success page that we'll be providing as part of the initial ESB-based integration we have done with them. Payment should prevent booking. The system should prevent booking if the capacity of the tour is exceeded. Here we will create an entry in the tour registration record after the successful payment. Here, as a validation, every time a payment is being done or a new booking is being done, we will check if the tour is already at capacity. So we'll do that along utilizing the relationship between the tour registration and the tour schedule, which contains the capacity. Tour operators can make booking in their own system, and they would like to bring that information into the new system. So here, based on the assumption that there is a common key between the account in GAT and the account or the adventurer that they are taking the booking against the system, once that is established, we'll be bringing over that data via RCI integration back into Salesforce and storing that into the order record, order object. The adventurer has booked on a high-risk tour and has medical condition, then we'll need to get that electronically signed. So here, once they have done the booking, we would know which tour they have booked for based on this relationship back to the tour object, and the whether or not the tour is high risk, we'll be maintaining on the tour object itself. We'll again be triggering a Conga trigger, generating that PDF along with the DocuSign parameters, so that once the booking is completed, we will be able to send an email out with the attached PDF as well as the signing envelope for the user to complete the digital signature. Moving further along to the adventure support requirement. So once the adventurers have confirmed that they are ready to embark on the journey, the adventurer can post questions and get responses from the public forum. So here we'll be setting up the collaboration space on the Experience Cloud we are providing for the adventurers, and using the chatter questions component, they will be able to do that. So they will type in, and although there are no knowledge requirements in here, the solution can be further expanded to search knowledge articles as well, or the previous questions, and do the collaboration. If they don't find anything, then that becomes a question itself. And moderators, ASS will be set up as moderators, and tour guides will be also added to that collaboration group so that they can add further comments against that question. Adventurers can post their photos and make comments against the tour. So here the tour photos, etc., will be updated on the tour registration object, which will be shared with the adventurers via a sharing set. I'll explain it shortly. Using the record trigger automation will also make the attachment available to the tour via a front-end document link. At times, the adventurers will get into trouble and require assistance. So here we are going into the support process, which will be implemented using the case object. So every time they create a support request, we'll be creating a case record, and we'll do that by giving them their profiles, the create access on the case object. Service coordinators are assigned based on the region, the request, and they can choose the request they would like to work on. So the case assignment rules will be initially used to assign those cases into specialized queues, and those queues will be based on region. The service coordinators will be made members to those queues based on the region they belong to, and they will assign those cases manually via the list view. And using the record trigger flow, we'll be notifying the owner once the case is assigned. SE does not accept the request. If they don't accept the request in one day, then we need RM to be notified. And depending on the kind of the case, we have different SLA levels to be implemented as well. So here we'll be doing that using an entitlement process set up for the support process. We will be setting up initially a 24-hour independent milestone, which will have a milestone action to notify the RM via email. And we will need another milestone which will have which will be of type recurrence, which will repeat every 4 hours until the time the case status changes to accepted. Certain adventurers with medical conditions will require higher response levels. So here I'm proposing to add those as entitlements in here, which will help us to drive the entitlement process and create milestones against the cases. So for example, if the medical condition, if adventurers doesn't need medical condition, the SLA time increases to 14 days. On the other hand, if they have any medical condition, then that gets reduced to 5 days. Updates to the request needs to be integrated to field dispatch system. So that system has been retained in the new new landscape, and we will be pushing the case information via integration down to the service pro system. GAT also wants to adventurers to be able to chat with the service coordinator. So this will be done using implementing chat on the Experience Cloud. So here the chat will be deployed onto the Experience Cloud using the embedded deployment. And Experience Cloud already provides a Lightning component where we can map it to the embedded deployment that we have created. Chat will be configured as a service channel. We'll be creating a specific routing configuration and enabling skill-based routing. We'll also be setting up the SCs as agents and as members into that queue, and we'll be assigning the required skill in the service resource skill object. GAT calculates the number of assistance requests that are at the fault of the tour operator, and that further drives for automation such as marking the tour operator as high or low risk. So here the at fault attribute will be maintained on the case in a custom field. And here is when the declarative roll-up summary will help us. So using the tour operator that organized the tour, we will be able to create a roll-up summary. That lookup is actually missing. So what I will do, I will create another custom lookup between the case and the account, which will show which tour operator this case belongs to. Using that lookup, we'll be able to set up a declarative rollup based on the criteria to put a number of at-risk faults against the account, and that would change the status for that tour operator into a high risk or not. GAT would like to track feedback and performance of the service coordinator, so this can be achieved via the surveys. So we'll enable the surveys in the support system. So at the closure of the case, we will be able to push that survey out to the user, and the feedback will be captured in the survey objects related to the case. Moving on to the data migration requirements. So here, TAT would like to import the tours, tour operators, etc., from their outgoing systems. I will move to my data migration strategy. So here the outgoing systems such as TMS will bring us the tour schedules, tour operators, and their registrations. I'm also assuming that because their TMS was not working for a while, or it wasn't adequate, they were also using Excel. So some data might also be coming from tour, such as tour and management fees, etc., from Excels. And finally, the outgoing system might also have some tour information and the order data, because that is also in use. We'll bring all that data into a consolidated staging environment, which will be in the raw format initially. Because the multiple systems were used, there are high chances of duplicates as well. So we'll use that environment to do data quality improvements, deduping, and any enrichment that is required. We'll do the translation into the required format by Salesforce. We'll then move this data into a staging environment, which will be in the target schema. We'll relate the child records with the respective parent records using the external ID. We'll then be pushing this data into different sandboxes as needed, and we'll be pushing the historical data into EDW. At this point, I would like to move to my data calculation sheet as well. So here, based on my calculation, I see the tour schedule object becoming LDV in 5 years' time. And so is the registrations depending based on the number of tours and the number of times GATA would schedule this. And the support request, which is the case object, will also become LTV. I've also done file calculation based on the 10 MB. I have also assumed 10 MB for the photos, etc., that the adventurers might be uploading. So that roughly comes to around 50 terabytes of data. Using the 1,000 users that I have assumed, comes to around 130 GB of data and 12 terabyte of data, which is clearly not sufficient. So that was the reason why I suggested Xfiles Pro. Xfiles Pro will be set up using the managed package connection, and it supports connection with various cloud environments. In this instance, we'll be using it with S3 storage built on AWS. In order to mitigate the LDV, because there could be impacts with the slow CRUD operations, CPU timeouts, and list view and report performances, and also sharing calculations and full copy sandbox refreshes. So in the short term, we will analyze any slow performing queries using query plan tool, determining if the standard indexes are sufficient. If not, we'll create a support request with Salesforce to create a custom index. Bearing in mind that the custom indexes will have the lower threshold compared to the standard indexes. As a long term, we would like to archive this data off platform via a scheduled ETL job. So we'll determine the retention period with the business, legal, as well as data architects. Once that is established, we'll be running an ETL job to read the data of the identified object and any supporting data required for the data to be archived. Push that into EDW, come back into Salesforce, and do a hard delete so that the data is gone from the platform. Coming back to the requirements, the existing system have large number of duplicates. I have already covered that. And GAT is a 24/7 operation, and they require minimal downtime during cutover. So here the recommended plan of approach would be to monitor how long it actually takes to do the data migration. And I have recommended a full copy staging environment. Once that time is determined, negotiate for a downtime, which is usually going to be over the weekend. And because the data is going to be quite large, I propose a technical go live, which will be 1 week before the actual go live. We'll put all the data up till that point, and the delta for the 1 week of data will be put in the weekend in the cutover when the business goes live. And we'll be doing that by locking out all the users, switching off all the automations and validation rules, switching off the email deliverability, setting the OWD of all the objects to public read write so the load is efficient, and using the defer sharing calculation so that the role hierarchy configuration does not trigger the sharing rule calculation every time. So the recommended sequence here would be to configure the role hierarchy, put the users in it, bring in the products, prices, and price book entries. Leads would come in next, along with accounts and contracts with respective owners. We'll be bringing in data into tour schedule, and tour registration custom objects. Sales data can come in next, which is offline, order and order product, and the support data such as case information can follow. Moving on to the accessibility requirement, GET staff would require single sign-on using their internal directory, and their tour operators would need access using the LDAP directory. So here, as I explained before, Okta will be doing that via integration with Okta Agent. GET would like to also ensure seamless SSO using the service coordinator's credentials. So here, their organizational email address will be used as the common federation ID between Salesforce and Service Pro and Okta, and using single sign-on. That we will be doing a SAML-based SSO into Service Pro as well. Customers would be able to register and sign on into the new application using their Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus credentials. So here the auth provider will be configured per social channel, and this will give us the different endpoints that will be used by the LWC screen that will be creating for their registration. We'll also be setting up a registration handler, which is the Apex class implementing auth.registration handler interface. And using the create user or the update user, will be either creating the user or adding further information that comes back from the OP. The mobile publisher will be using the UA plus OIDC flow that I will explain at the end of my presentation. TOC would like to view and edit registration requests and tour operators that have been created for that region. So the leads and the accounts are owned by TOCs. The owner-based sharing rule will be created per region. So we'll be making sure the leads owned by a particular role in that region is shared with the same role back with the read write to give them the access. The tour operators would like to manage draft tours and schedules. Tour operators have an office manager role that they would like to view data on behalf of other users. So the tours and schedule data, which is in master detail, will be shared using sharing set with the normal tour operator profiles. The tours will also be shared with a sharing rule with the office manager profile who have roles, and we'll be setting up a validation rule so that they don't update a tour which is not in draft status. Draft tours and their schedules are only visible to AS by region. So similar to the approach earlier, we'll be setting up a OBSR again to share with regional roles, and we'll be setting up a criteria-based sharing rule this time to share the published tours with all the users. And this will be doing that with all the internal as well as external rules, external users. Internal users can view all the adventures and their tour bookings. So the criteria-based sharing rule will be configured here to share the adventure accounts, which will be the different record type on the account, with the internal staff in a read-only fashion. Another criteria-based sharing rule on the tour registration object with the internal staff as well, at this time read-only access. Only the TOC can view and edit the number of fatalities, injuries field on the tour operator. So here we'll be setting up the field level security for these fields for TOC profile as well, and not to other profiles. The registration requests in their region that require follow-up and are noted as high risk, etc. And AS who are trained to manage those tours should only be able to view them. So high risk ASs will be added into a region-based public group. The criteria-based sharing rule to share the high-risk registrations per region will be shared with this public group. So I'm assuming that in the 6 regions, we'll have to probably create 6 criteria-based sharing rule. That's going to be well under 50 limit that we have. Adventurers can view their own contact information, tour bookings, and assistance. So here sharing sets will be set up on order and case as well using the order.pa and case.account criteria. Tour operators would like to see 6 months. Tour operators can view the details of the tour operators 6 months prior to the scheduled tour. So here for the tour guides, we have given a role-based license. So we'll be setting up an Apex batch to automatically share the account record with the tour records based on the date criteria when the tour is 6 months away. SCs and their manager should only be able to view the adventurer assistance request assigned to that SC. So the SCs will be made the owner of the case, and using the role hierarchy configuration, their managers will get the access as well. Moving on to the reporting requirements, the adventurers will need to be able to view the history of their travel for past 2 records. So the order records are already shared using the sharing set, and we'll be providing them with a list view to view this information. Talks require dashboards and reports for booking in the past 2 years. So this will be a report on the tour registration and order objects. The reporting access will be provided to the TO office manager role, which is the CCP license. Tour operators requires report for upcoming tours and schedules and bookings. So this will be a report on the tour and tour schedule object. Office managers of the tour operators require report for their staff draft tours. So here again a report on tour and tour schedules filtered by a particular status will be provided to them, and the office managers have access to reporting. GAT management require a dashboard showing summary of travel booking trends. So here the tour registration data will be sent to EDW, which we are already doing as part of archival. We will also send the live data as well in this instance so that the EDW has the tour registration information. The CRM Analytics S3 connector will be the Redshift connector will be used to bring that data back into TCRM or CRM Analytics, create a dashboard using the data set for them to view this data. Moving on to the other requirements. Here, the GAT runs two divisions, internal and external, and each of them are headed by a particular CIO. So here, the program owners will be jointly made the two CIOs, and they'll be reporting into a steering committee, which will consist of the two CIOs, the executive sponsor, and any other stakeholders who need to know how this project is going. The delivery leads and marketing and legal will also become part of that steerco. Due to ripple effect impact of the changes, GAT mandates the major changes are restricted once a quarter, and they would like to continue with the smaller changes. So here the environment strategy will help us with that. So the BAU will be working on the hot fix environment. So they will take the changes of the master to work on that. The development team, who will be deploying less frequently into production, will be working off scratch orgs on the feature branches. Once they're done with their build, they'll be pushing those changes to development environment, a develop branch, sorry, and we'll be using the Azure pipeline CI/CD, pushing those changes into SIT environment, DM environment. And then once the automated tests and the code integrations come successful, a pull request will be created by the administrator into the release branch, which will be automatically deployed into the QA and a training environment. QA environment can be used for integration testing using stubs, automation testing as well, using ProVar, and the manual testing performed by the functional team. The deployment will then be done in a controlled fashion into UAT and staging. UAT environment will be used for penetration testing, integration, end-to-end testing using the testing endpoints and the user testing as well. Staging environment will be used to perform the load testing and the data migration test rehearsal as well. Once we are happy with that, we'll be doing a controlled deployment into production. Once the production deployment is successful, we'll be merging the release branch into master. The hotfix branches, any changes to that will be pull requested back into the develop as well as to release branch, so that those changes are available for the development teams. For the requirement traceability, I'll be using Jira. Documentation will be done in Confluence. The methodology will be used as a waterfall agile. Backup will be implemented using own backup. It is suggested as a BAU strategy, such that the production environment data can be restored in case of a disaster. IDE will be used as VS Code. The automation testing using ProVar, and the load testing using LoadRunner. The payment force system is a critical system. GAT needs any changes to that system to be going through a rigorous testing. So here we will ensure the minimum number of changes are done to the payment force system. We'll also do an architectural discovery as part of our initial workshops to determine what exact changes will be required in the payment force, and we'll be working with payment force SMEs. If any of those changes require longer or can't be done at all, we'll be managing that risk as part of the PMO risk register. CAT has recently experienced two varying outages, and the CIO would like to implement a uniform disaster recovery plan. So here, Salesforce will be registered as a disaster recovery participant, and will take part into DR exercises using the full copy sandbox that we have, and that will form part of the BAU activity. Due to hiring restrictions, GST relies heavily on the individual contractors, and they would have history of bad deliverables. So here the architectural blueprints will be created along with best practices using and published by the COE, and the design reviews will be done in the ARB forum one sprint in advance. CIOs like to standardize the global process and have those changes actually signed off before they can be implemented. So the business COE will work with POs and BAs to do the backlog refinement, and it will be approved by PO before the build can start. US drive the big revenue stream, and they have instances of friction with the other systems. So we will review the US requirement and determine the return of investment by doing a BCJ. And if that change needs to be implemented in other regions as well, we'll prioritize those And depending on the financial gain that we would get, we will probably need to prioritize those changes. But any disagreements will be managed via escalations to steerco. Moving further along to the risk, I see following this, the tour operators don't have a reliable integration. So we need to standardize the integration contract with TOs, involve them in the system integration testing. Mobile publisher will need approval at least 2 months in advance with Apple and Google. Payment force testing timelines is a delivery risk. So as I covered before, we'll be managing that. And I know I am 9 seconds over. Testing methodology for the project, I have covered this in the environment strategy. Project and technical governance also is covered in G&D, and the deployment and release strategy is covered in the environment strategy as well. I also have the auth flow that I would like to cover in the question and answer. I'm now open for questions. Thank you.